It's mostly like that game, which we can, that we don't, kind of, our flight, 3 hours, 5 hours. But there needs tomorrow, we can get it done, but tomorrow night, Friday, with the crazy. And we want that, Thursday, Friday, something,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks.
Raquel, did you end up having to move out of the office? She's still trying to get on. You probably did. Kel, did you have to get out of the office?
Hey, Mark.
Good morning, Peter.
How you doing?
Good.
We're gonna see how long I last here. There's nobody working at the shop now, so but I might lose power, but I have my phone in backup.
What are they doing at the shop?
They're gonna be swapping the power over to temporary power today because we have to get some work done on one side of it for the town.
Yeah, okay.
So if I all of a sudden go out, I'll be back in like 2 minutes with with my phone.
Did Raquel leave?
Yeah. Oh, she never came. Yeah, she's she's over at the high school.
Yeah, no. It smells like diesel. Yep. Yep. Yep.
What is it?
They filled the
All right, it's 8 o'clock. Oh no, we're waiting for Gene, so no problem. We can hang out for a minute.
yep. But I don't see downs on either.
No.
Do they need to be let on?
Well, that would police should use. I don't think so. Did we invite them?
Hmm. don't know. Let me pull up the,
They were invited. And
There they are. Is that Mike? Good morning, Gene.
Good morning.
So we're just letting Downs get on so we make
Yeah.
sure everything's organized before we start. And
Yeah, we could hear you guys, but you guys couldn't hear us. So we're glad to be on.
Yeah, we've been on for a bit.
great. Gene, you want me to just start off? We'll call the meeting to order.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
We'll call the meeting to order. The board members are Gene Fitzgerald and Galen. So we're here to see if there's any public comments, Raquel. So Raquel is our manager of the office here in the meeting.
no, she just
Okay,
put
so
in.
she must have some problems with her communication. That's great. Thanks, Raquel. So if with that being said, we're here to we're going to skip over the other stuff. We'll get to that later. We'll introduce Dowds and let them take it from here.
All right, are we able to share the screen?
Yes.
Yep, I'm going to share right now.
Now, just before you get going, it's a 15-minute presentation, 15-minute Q&A. I'll be keeping the timer. I'll put in the chat when do you want the warning at? 2 minutes?
2-minute warning is always good.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then we'll go from there. And
All right.
then with that, we'll turn it over. We'll just quickly, Mark Schweitzer Colliers, the OPM for the town of Madison, Bill McMinn, Peter Anderson, and Felicia Smith are with Buildings and Grounds for the town of Madison. Bill touched upon the 2 building committee members, and Raquel runs the show. So
Yeah.
with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mark. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to present our team and approach for the Polson Middle School HVAC electrical and auditorium project. My name is Scott Scholl. I'm the project executive for Downs Construction. I have over 20 years of experience in the industry and have been with Downs for just over 10 years. Downs has been in business since 1934. We have 70 plus employees in Connecticut, from our executive staff to our field. I've overseen recent HVAC projects for Downs and we have completed, and I'm currently serving as the PX on the Region 18. There's 3 HVAC upgrade schools in Old Lyme. Our team's experience on these projects will provide valuable leadership, ensuring that the Polson Middle School comes in on time and on budget. Before I turn it over to the team for introductions, is it acceptable to ask if we could reserve 2 minutes for closing after Q&A?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mike.
Good morning. I'm Mike Delaccio. I'm going to be the project manager for the Polson Middle School project. Been with Downs for about 6 years. Fresh off a couple of MEP upgrade projects. One at the Hallway Elementary School and about a year ago, and also the East Hartford Town Hall was just finished as well.
Good morning. My name is Jason Smith. I'll be your project superintendent, boots on the ground. I bring over 40 years experience and a great deal of information for the Polson School. Looking forward to the opportunity.
My name is Brittany Clark, and I would be your project engineer. My day-to-day, I'd be helping Mike and Jason in the field. I have about 7 years of experience in the industry, the last 2 of which have been with Down, and I'm looking for the opportunity to hopefully get a chance to work in medicine.
So we have extensive experience in HVAC upgrades for projects, and particularly at schools. As Mike mentioned, he just finished Hawley with Jason, and we're currently on the Region 18, 3 schools over there. And we're coordinating different shifts with all of our clients to meet their needs for these HVAC projects. Next slide. With auditorium experience, schools is our business. We do a lot with auditoriums, particularly with the seating and procurement, theatrical lighting, and understanding the photometrics, what you're trying to achieve with sound and acoustics in the space, as well as stage equipment and rigging. Some of our key areas of focus is safety. The first and foremost is the safety and security of your students and staff. That's the most important part of the project. We perform extensive background checks prior to any subcontract or any personnel setting foot on your school. We have security guards posted during work hours, even on second shift, because there's after school activities. And personnel workers are badged, check in and out, and agreed upon postings with the school. And Jason will get more into that in depth. We'll be looking to work double shifts in the summer, particularly with any hazardous work. So we're not disrupting students and faculty during the school year with any hazardous activities. We manage change management processes through extensive constructability reviews during pre-construction and during the design process. When building our scopes of work, we utilize a shareable open items log so we can collaboratively look at these constructability reviews with the whole entire design team. And we strive to leave no stone unturned during all of these phases of pre-construction. However, we're not blind to the fact that change orders happen, particularly if there's an unforeseen issue. And we mitigate this process, the change orders, through the RFI process by partnering with our subcontractors in providing strategic solutions to the design team so that we can all minimize costs or eliminate them altogether. Go ahead, Mike.
And this is a proposed schedule and phasing plan for the Polson Middle School. So there's a lot of research done. The report that you have done and that's already available, that you made available to us. You guys have put a lot of work and thought and effort into this project. So here's proposed phases. Phase 1. From January to June will be done during the second shift during the school year. Phase 2 will be done during the summer from June to August of 2025. Phase 3, moving into the front end of the building, you have the second shift that'll be done during the 2025-2026 school year. Again, all during second shift. And then Phase 4, you have the auditorium, the band, the music area, will be done during the summer to complete this project in August of 2026. So again, you guys have outlined a good plan and a good project, and we're excited to get to know it and to intimately and to work with you guys on the schedule and the importance of this work as we mentioned, done during second shift. All the work, the spaces are turned over back to the school the next day.
So in pre-construction, we're going to look to, manage, as I mentioned, the constructability reviews with B&L and the design team in order to help manage costs. And also, we're going to look at escalation, and we're going to review our recent bidding history. And, we have a very good relationship with our subcontractors, and we're going to collaborate with them so we can understand future costs, which will also help with understanding escalation percentages. We want to make sure we're breaking out phases for pre-purchasing equipment. There's switchgear and a generator. I think we all know they have very long lead times, 70+ weeks. And then you've got coordination studies that have to happen with Eversource that add 2 months before you can even order the equipment. So it's really important to break out phases for pre-purchasing equipment and even the mechanical equipment, which can run 10 to 15 months to ensure that we're getting the equipment when we need to install it. And Mike can touch more upon bidding and procurement.
Yeah, absolutely. So having that early bid period with the releasing the long lead items, switchgear and generator, you're looking at the screen, the time, get you guys doing it the right way to get this thing on the street early. Some of the units, VRF, DOAS, VRF, the actual units inside, not too bad, but the rooftop units and the DOAS units can be a little longer lead time. So getting all that released is the right plan and strategy. So once this is out to bid, we do have a knowledge of the subcontractor market. As we said, we've done several projects, several similar projects. We will get good turnout on the bid. Have a competitive bid. Get subcontractor market interested in this job, and incorporate not only the items that Scott mentioned, mitigating change orders into our scopes of work, into our project manual. Putting in all the, we'll also put in all the CHRO, OGA requirements, everything up front prior to putting this on the street to make sure that it's a seamless construction process.
Continuing the conversation about pre-construction, again, my name is Brittany Clark and I'd be your project engineer. My role specifically would be on focusing on the MEP coordination process. One of the ways that Downs betters our MEP coordination process by utilizing BIM, building information modeling, throughout both the pre-construction and construction phases of the project. We use BIM as a way to manage risk throughout the project, to mitigate it and avoid it as much as possible. We're starting as early as the design stages during pre-construction, building that model. We're taking, if possible, building scans and incorporating that with new design documents to come up with an illustration, a 3D model of your MEPs. What this is it helps us to develop a deliverable, one of those being a clash detection report that we can utilize to identify any potential conflicts. So before we put a pipe, or in this case, any mechanicals in the ceiling, we're making sure that there's no existing clashes that are going to potentially interfere down the line. So we're able to do this and flush out any clashes through the RFI and submittal process. Downs has the ability to do this completely in-house during the pre-construction stage. During the construction stage, we typically employ the HVAC contractor as a gatekeeper, and we manage that process. Downs is currently going through CM-BIM certifications for several of our employees, myself included, just to make sure that we are managing this process the most efficiently as possible.
Thanks, Brittany. Again, my name is Jason Smith, and I will be the boots on the ground as the superintendent. Scott had mentioned the utmost importance of security and safety. Your students and your faculty will be our primary concern. Education will not be disrupted. To give you some details, our background check, every single subcontractor has to provide us a list of workers. Each one of those workers then goes on to our background program system and goes through an extensive, detailed check. We then have them sign an acknowledgement, and this is something that's very new and something that's very important. With that acknowledgement, it allows us to go in and find out about each and every single worker. If they are red flagged, if I see something I don't trust, I don't allow them to be badged. Every single worker who comes on site has to be badged. We are keeping that controlled by, as Scott mentioned, a full-time monitor at a one point of entry for your campus. Nobody gets onto the site. If they come from another job because they ran out of work and they're coming over here to help somebody paint, but they haven't been badged, they go back to their car and they go home. So we want to make sure that you understand our program is very dedicated to your safety. In terms of, if you could go to the next slide, Mike, high-risk activities. We've mentioned hazardous materials. We have a huge amount of RTUs. Your school campus is large at Polson. We will be working these high-risk activities from day one. We do nothing without pre-installation meetings. During these meetings, every activity is well-defined. We're going to be going into your roof. We're going to be doing existing equipment demolition. We're going to have cranes, as you see in this picture here. This is the Hawley School that Michael and I completed. We have to be aware of everything that's going on in your building. Brittany mentioned the BIM modeling. Well, we're going to learn everything about your building. We're going to know what your existing conditions are like, and we are going to document that to a T through our Procore app. Also, indoor air quality control. Everybody who enters the school has to be protected from any potential issue. We want to make sure by using negative air at all times that everybody on the campus is safe. I'm looking forward to questions. I'm really hoping to be able to answer them soon. Thank you very much. Brittany?
Thanks, Jason. I'll take the project management. I'm going to be your project manager, Mike Delaccio. I'll be attending all the building committee meetings. We're going to be having OAC meetings that we'll be holding, making sure all parties are on schedule and fulfilling their obligations. We're also going to track the budget and the schedule. So we're a very open communication. That's very important to us. We have a monthly report. We report on, where the project is schedule-wise, do a schedule update, report on the budget. We do that monthly and, weekly, bi-weekly at the owners' meetings as well. Document controls, Procore was mentioned. We do utilize Procore. most design teams and engineers, architects are familiar with it. We'll be utilizing that for all document control, making a seamless process. Anybody, from the town, from the building committee, facilities will also have access to that. They can look at submittals, RFIs, photos. Everything will be available to them as well. And our constant contact with the facilities that Jason touched on. So turning this back over, MEP upgrade, we got to make sure the any heat and cooling that was there is back on when the students go to school the next day. So we're going to be very close contact communication throughout the construction process. And I'll turn it over to Brittany for a closeout.
And so just to quickly run through closeout, I know we have 2 minutes, so I'll make it fast. We're always on schedule. We're always on time. But so when it comes to closeout, we obviously know that you guys are going to be excited to enjoy your new school, or I should say newly renovated school in this case. So when it comes to closeout, we want to make sure that for your facilities team, we are making it as user-friendly as possible. And one of the ways we do that is by providing slate cards. So there's a relatively new technology in the industry. It's essentially a small business card with a QR code on it. That QR code hooks up to an app that your facility staff can download on their smartphone. And all they got to do is go and scan that QR code on their phone of any of the new equipment we put in. And they're able to actually access all the O&Ms, YouTube videos, training manuals, etc., right from their fingertips. So rather than sorting through 10 binders of closeouts, which we'll also give you, they're able to access this in real time, and it just helps that process be a little more enjoyable for everybody. And as your partner, that's our first priority. With that, again, on schedule and on time, I'd like to open it up to Q&A.
Thank you, guys. I'll be asking the questions. And I'll address them to Scott, and you can throw them to whoever you want to throw them to.
Yes.
I guess generally, who is our primary contact in the field or on the project?
Yeah, that would be Mike and Jason day to day.
Okay.
Day to day. Pre-construction, it would be me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess what is your process of phone calls, emails, how do we email both of them? Do we just email Mike and he kicks to whoever, or?
Well, it's an interesting question. I guess you'll end up starting out with Mike, but you're going to realize really quick that Jason's going to develop relationships very fast in the field. So, at the end of the day, you're going to be copying both.
Yeah. And Mark, can I add to that? Your school, it has a system that's already in place. My day-to-day activities are going to join literally at the hip to that system. So for the Polson principal and the school staff, I'm assuming that they use a radio system. I'll be asking for a radio so that when we're actually on site, the communication will be flawless. If there's an issue, because we believe in a tree of communication, everybody involved from Scott through everybody on the project down will know about the issue. Mike mentioned that we're transparent, and that's one of our best attributes.
Okay, thank you. Get into pre-construction and bidding. With the climate in Connecticut, with the HVAC grant program and all the other schools going at the same time, how will you manage the bidding process to make sure that we have coverage for the trades, for the bid packages?
Yeah, well, that's interesting you say that they're all happening at the same time. They are, but they're not, right? Like, because you're just getting into DD now, and this isn't kicking off until the end of this year. So any projects that are kicking off, they're going to be in the works. They're going to be getting through them. I'm not going to say halfway, but in some cases, yeah, in Region 18 for sure, being a 15-month project. And the interest is out there, and they're hitting them pretty hard from what we've seen. So, and we have good relationships with our HVAC subs, and we let them know right from when we get the project that, hey, this is coming down the pike, and keep it on your radar, keep it on your bid list, because it's coming. And Mike, do you want to add any more to that?
Yeah, working at Downs, we have some contractors, they bid our projects. I think putting together that clear scope of work, outlining any second shift, outlining the summer work, a clear schedule, makes it easy for them. There's not a lot of unknowns. We take all those unknowns out right through that pre-design, pre-construction phase, and put it in our scopes, put it in our plan, and it allows it, an easy way for them to bid it. We've done that on all our projects. So, I think we will definitely generate a lot of interest. We got a lot of subs that are, looking for the next one. Like Scott mentioned, some of these projects are, finishing up, or they already gave numbers, and they're looking for the next one. So, we'll definitely get a lot of interest in this project.
And our phasing narratives are very clear. They're conducive with our phasing plan and our schedules. And so that really outlines for them what they expect and how they're going to bid it, to Mike's point.
Mhm.
Okay. If the town has contractors that they've worked with in the past and all that, are you willing to solicit bids from contractors that the town suggests or supplies?
Yeah, we are, and we're willing to talk to them beforehand as well, to make sure they understand our insurance requirements and if they haven't done CM work before, how to read a scope of work. That's really important when we're taking on new subcontractors that we may not have worked with, and we've worked with a lot. But depending on who the town does work with, yes, we're more than willing to take that on and have them, try their hand at the bidding. But we really want to make sure they understand our bid documents and the CM process. That's really important.
Okay. Thank you. In pre-construction, what is Downs' view as the challenges and opportunities of this project?
Well, has the team performed any building scanning, or is that on the horizon at all?
No, they've not done any scanning.
Okay, so unforeseen above the ceiling is probably the biggest challenge. Understanding what the engineers understood is above the ceiling, and what work was done to understand that. Jason, you want to add a little more to that?
Well, yeah, sure. So, Mark, we look at this very much as if you were a skeleton, and we have to learn every bone in that building, so that when we open up a roof, like I mentioned in high-risk activities, we know exactly what's underneath, and is there an actual route for the equipment that has to go through. In the development that was done before that Mike mentioned, it's already detailed as to what's going to be required to get through the building. It's an extensive process, and we have to be involved, and that's why I brought up existing conditions. So that's probably your biggest challenge. Scott is right. What's happening above the ceiling? You open up the ceiling and you see a web of previously installed materials that have to be adjusted for everything new. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and when Brittany's going through MEP coordination, that's going to be the biggest challenge, is to understand not only what's going on there, but what's going on with the roof too. Did anyone take a core sample of the roof for roof repairs and what we're expecting to, re-insulate in the thickness? Do we understand the curbs? Are we using curb adapters, or are we not? And are the curb adapters way too small for what that is already there? These are some of the things that, Brittany's going to look at when she's going through a coordination process and submittal process.
And
let me-
we'll also include the design team on that process as well. They'll be working hand in hand with us throughout the MEP coordination to make sure that they're abreast of any concerns as well.
Yeah.
And Mark, just to add also, your local authorities having jurisdiction, we have to be up to code. What is the current code condition of the building? So we'll have a great relationship with your people, your fire marshal, your building officials, and we'll make sure as we are going through the building, everything is analyzed to meet current codes.
Okay. We'll get into construction. You've listed the Jason's time and Mike's time or experience on other occupied construction sites. I guess the biggest thing is in phase construction and the go backs to previous phases. How do you guys close out a phase through punch list, through all the details, and move on to the next phase, and not have go back into previous phases.
Yeah, so it's really good that you have second shift work because it allows us to penetrate walls into the shift that the phase rather that's coming up, so that we're prepared for it when we come out of that phase to go into the new one and just not skip a beat and connect and keep going with it. But Mike, you want to expand on how we close out a phase?
Yeah, so it's important to establish at the beginning what everybody's roles are being, what the process is going to be. So, we're gonna have our completion when we're done. We're gonna do our own punch list before anybody else sees it, and then we're gonna have a very specific process for the architect, the engineer, and the final inspection. So those will all be in our schedule, and we'll keep those dates. So we're establishing the punch list, and then we can hit it hard and close all the items quick. Establish how a big thing is school is occupied, holidays. That we're still working. Voting day in November, first week of November, whatever it is, we're getting that day, and we got 20 items, and we're gonna get them all done that day. Communicating with the subcontractors so we can really hit it and close it out and not impact the school, not have to go back in a classroom, that the students are in.
Yeah, and Jason's gonna work with Brittany on observations and Procore. And observations is like our completion list that has the foreman's direct emails on it. And we see something that doesn't make sense during the phase, it's gonna be sent right to them with a photo. And they're gonna have to hit it in a certain time period, and they get addressed in every subcontractor meeting. And you guys can expand on that if you'd like to, but.
I would love to jump in there. Sorry, Brittany, if you were going to say something, but one of the things that Procore offers are QR codes, Mark, and we label every single room. And to Scott's point, when Brittany or I put an observation in, which is pre-punch list, that goes right to whoever is responsible for it. We can identify it right then and there. Then when they go there, there's no question about what the item is. We identify it as to which wall it is. Is it the north wall, the west wall? We go to great detail to make sure that they can go in, as Michael said, during unoccupied time and get those items completed. Not to brag, but at the Hawley School, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, our punch list was less than 120 items.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And that's the pre-punch process. And Procore and the QR codes are huge, as well as Brittany's eyes.
And Brittany, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add for context, I'm actually just coming off of a phase project at an occupied hospital. We just finished up a maternity and a NICU floor where we're actually occupying half of the floor. The other half is where they were temporarily housing patients. And so we understand even in hospital climates how important it is to, once we leave a space, we're done, we're out of the space. And like Jason and Mike had mentioned, when we do our punch list, we're anticipating that by the time the design team gets there, there is no punch list. And that closeout document process, getting the staff trained, getting your facilities team on board, et cetera, is happening way long before we plan to leave that space. So my job, I'm getting closeout documents from the subcontractors months and months and months before, so that when we do get to that last, month or so of the project, it's really just a matter of, putting final touches on, buttons on everything and making sure you're ready to take the space. And that's all it is. There's no last minute punch list.
And Mark, that's why it's so key to get those RTUs so early, so that you have them on the ready and we're not having to go back into the space to put in duct drops, particularly if it's in the middle of the winter and you have temporary heating. And yeah, we're still using the existing system, but if we have to change out the units on a weekend, or again, it's second shift, we want to make sure the duct drops are going in when we can put the unit in, so we can really be out of that space and not go back and touch your ceiling again.
Okay. Just under 3 minutes. I'm going to open it up to the building committee if they have any questions.
I have one question. You're
Yep.
working with the town now in one of the projects. Can you tell me a little bit what you're doing for the town and how that's working out?
Yeah, so we are in Region 18 with Old Lyme. In their case, they have kind of like they have day shifts, but they also have second shift work too. So in some cases, they they may not have as much staff as what Madison might have to accommodate second shift on a 100% basis, which is fine. We can still work through the phases. It's just meetings with the fire marshal are really important, and never mind the principals and the staff, to understand egress and keeping people out of corridors so that we can have that free flow of egress path while construction is going on. But it's going well, and that plan is going to work out, and it is working out.
Thank you.
Every district is different, as far as their approach.
Bill,
Well,
can I add
Just
I'm
to
sorry.
add, we also are currently working on the fire station on an OPM assignment. I don't know if that was part of the question.
It was.
Yeah, so we're also working at the fire station on an OPM assignment. And so far, I personally am not on the project, but so far I've heard good things with the town in terms of our interactions with them and making sure all stakeholders are involved, getting the design team as well involved.
So is it a different team on that project?
Yeah, so it is a different team than the team you're looking at now. And Scott, go ahead if you want to.
Well, yeah, actually, Brittany, I'll speak to that. So, yeah, that's an OPM assignment for that addition over at the fire station, the Emergency Operations Center. So that's still in pre-construction, and that is OPM. It's not a full-time assignment. That will be me during construction, but I will be half-time on this project. I think that was what's in our proposal. So
Yeah,
I think I'll be able to do both. I think I will be able to support Madison in both aspects. So, but as I said, that one's still in design. I think they're still selecting a contractor. Jeff Anderson is headlining that on the pre-construction end.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Mike will have our support as well, Jason and I's full time.
And Scott, that concludes the Q&A. If you want to take 30 seconds, a minute to close out, please do so.
Thank you, Mark. And thanks for having us today. So our expertise is occupied renovations of schools. We understand how to engage and work with the superintendent and the staff with phasing and logistics. And we are committed to not only partnering with the school, but with the design team and the subcontractors to act as partners in problem solving. So we are all meeting the schedule on time and on budget. In 90 years of business, we have not once gone to litigation because of our partnerships and because of our commitments to the entire team. So we hope to get the opportunity to partner with you as well. And again, we thank you for giving us the opportunity today to present.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if there's nothing else,
So thank you. That was very, very nice presentation. Thank you very much for your time. I know the committee feels the same as well as everyone else. So thank you. That's pretty impressive. 90 years, no litigation. That says a lot. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, we're
Guys, sorry, Scott, can I add one more thing?
sure.
We are an employee-owned business now. And this is a big part of why people like Scott, who's at the top tier of our management team, when he talks to us as a co-owner. Everybody on this interview is actually part of the ownership team. So our responsibility is accelerated. And to you as a customer, we're promising you ownership involvement. And that's huge now that Downs is an employee-owned company.
Thank you. That's interesting. How long have you been employee-owned?
Just under 3-4 years, Scott?
Yeah, about 3 years. Yep.
2021. Yeah.
Yep. We're just hitting 4. And yeah, the Downs, they're still involved. John Downs still comes. His son is actually a project engineer for Jason. And
yes,
he's learning the ropes and, getting hit hard in the field in good ways. And, it's great. We're a family company, and I think we're going bowling on Thursday, right? So that,
yep.
we try to hang out, and, that's how we approach, our business. We're family oriented, and yet we're serious, and we understand how to partner with everyone, because we have to partner with each other.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, everybody. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
You guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
So we lost, the four dropped out in, I don't know if you want to try to fit some other stuff in. I say we do the business at the end. Are you good with that, Gene?
Yeah, are we still recording in between these meetings?
We are.
Yes.
Okay.
We're still recording. And we have like 7 minutes before the next one. Oh, no, there's Jesse. Was Jesse, I don't know, was Jesse on the whole time?
Yes, I was, Mel.
Ah, cool. I missed that. If we have time, the next one's on at 8:45.
8:45.
So do you want to approve the minutes? There's two of you there from March 13th.
Sure. Galen, move it.
Yep, so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Nice, thank you. How about the approval of the invoice for Petroselli for $3,250 relative to the Daniel Han High School RTU? I know that they've made a lot of progress on the plans. They're basically complete. Peter's been reviewing them with our staff, and I think we're in good shape.
So moved.
I'll second, but then I have a question.
Sure. Second, now discussion.
So this is just the design plans, or what does this entail us? This invoice. I mean, are there follow-up costs?
Galen, it's Felicia. So that is for the design plans. That is for, I believe, 90% of CD, which is about where we are. We had the facility staff review the documents. Everything looked to be in good order. So we gave them the release to package them up so that they could be sent to RFP shortly. So that's where we are in the project, and that's where we are in the building phase.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Felicia.
You're welcome.
So they're almost done, and they're going out to bid soon. And we really want to get them out to bid soon so we can order the material and get the equipment on board for a construction of 25. It takes that long to get the RTUs. So any other public here, Raquel?
No.
I did have executive session for contract negotiations if we wanted to talk about that at the end, I thought. But I don't think we need to do that right now. So I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. We're just waiting. We have another 4 minutes before the other firm comes in. Mark, would you like to update us on anything?
Well, what I was going to say is Raquel distributed the scorecard out to the building committee members. The aid scoring the two CM firms. We broke it down into categories and gave it points. I think every category is worth 10 except for two of them that are worth 5, so they all add up to 100. We have
one is 20. I think the presentation's 20.
Yeah. And actually the fee is 20 also.
Right.
The RFQ, the majority of it is based on the RFQ, which is 60%. And then the presentation is 20, which we're doing today. And then the fee is, when we open them up after the interviews, is worth another 20.
Billy, how's the fire? They're working on the firehouse.
Yes, I asked them about that because I'm not
I heard
familiar.
that, and it's not the same group, but how are they doing on that, hitting deadlines and?
So I need to check that out. I have not talked to them. Sam DeBurr is running that, and there's the owner. They're the owner's rep, just like Mark Skalenk
Yeah.
Mark Schwank,
Mhm.
Mark Schweitzer is for us. You know, so it's a different process. That I thought they'd be the same members, but of course it's a different team. There's 4 people for, you know, they're proposing here versus, I think it was it Mike that said he was representing them?
Yeah. He said he was the PM on that job. So he would be me over there.
Yeah. So
So
I would
it would be helpful to know how that project,
agreed.
I can ask for an update.
Thank you, Felicia. So 2 minutes before our next appointment, I think we've covered everything on the agenda that we can. And we do not need to do it today, but if we wanted to at the end, we could make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. I think we might want to ask questions and get back together. It's totally up to the committee. We could decide that at the end of the day, end of the meeting. Went smooth. Thank you, Mark, for putting that together. Thank you for keeping it moving.
You're welcome.
Those 2 minutes take a long time to go, huh? There's Jesse. We should have had an update on Polson, but we don't have that on the agenda. So it's a special meeting. We probably can't talk about that.
No.
So Mark, since you did a great job last time, I'm going to let you do the intro since I only did it halfway.
Not a problem.
You did a fine job too.
Thank you. And I see Nishant on. And
I see Nick. He looks like he's at a table, but he's a little blurry.
yeah,
You got to fix your, you take the blur off your background.
yeah, all 3 of them are there. Yep.
There we go.
Never looks so good with that blur on there.
All right. Are we waiting for anybody else from Gilbane?
No, everybody's here.
Okay. Mark Schweitzer from Colliers. On the call today, we have 2 members from the building committee, Galen Colley and Gene Fitzgerald. We also have Peter Anderson, Bill McMinn, and Felicia from the town, Jesse from BL Companies, and Raquel is also from the town. So with that, you'll have a 15-minute presentation, 15-minute Q&A, and then we'll give you a minute at the end to sum it up and close out. And with that, what do you want for you want a 2-minute warning or?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Mark.
I'll give you a 2-minute warning in the chat, and then
Okay.
and we'll go from there. Okay. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Nick.
All right, you can all see our screen or our presentation.
I've got a security alert.
Can you see it now?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you all for having us this morning. We're excited about this job. My name's Nick Conti. I'm a senior project executive with Gilbane. I've been with Gilbane 17 years, primarily focused on public K-12 construction. I'm the project executive for the Neck River Elementary School right across the wetland there. I've been a Madison town resident for 12 years. I have a 7-year-old son at Jeffrey and another one coming up behind him. So to say we're excited about this job is definitely an understatement. Agenda for today, we're going to go through a couple of quick sort of slides here that we did include in our RFP and RFQ response. We'll hit those quickly and then get to some more site-specific and project-specific items like site logistics and project constraints, project challenges that we see, and some opportunities to overcome them. So our org chart here, pre-construction on the left, construction on the right. I'll let these guys introduce themselves.
Nice to meet everyone. My name is Mike Mazzarella. I'll be your project manager on the job. Super excited to be here today with you all. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with Gilbane for 5.5 years. I've been in the construction industry for 10 years in total. With that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Patriot. I'll be the site superintendent, so I'll be on site when as construction is happening. A little bit about myself. I've been with Gilbane for about 7 years now, and super excited to be here.
All right, two other folks I want to mention on this slide. On the left in pre-construction, Mike Parent is our chief estimator. Most of his career estimating has been spent estimating mechanical systems. And then Matt Luddy at the bottom left is our VDC, or virtual design and construction engineer. He is responsible for coordinating our 3D BIM models and coordinating the duct and the piping, making sure everything fits. But we think there's another dimension of his services that we'll talk about in a little bit, but we think is going to be beneficial to this project. Connecticut public K-12 experience. Not going to go in depth on this, just a few projects highlighted here of the many that we've done over the years. We've got a 20-year working relationship with OGA, Office of Grants Administration. Proud of the work that we've done with them to maximize reimbursements for previous projects for other towns and cities. And then one other thing I want to note on this slide is the headshots there. That's the folks that we proposed for this project. And there's continuity among the staff. We felt that was very important, given that some of our staffs can be working different shifts than others. We felt continuity from past project experience working together was important. So the town of Fairfield and public schools awarded us a contract to provide HVAC upgrades at 3 different school buildings in their town. It's a job with BL. It's a job that we're doing with Mark and Colliers. The scope, especially on the HVAC side, is very, very similar. Variable refrigerant flow systems, VRV systems, DOAS units on the roof. It bid about 6 or so weeks ago. The total construction cost after bid days, you see on the bottom left, was $33.8 million. Our final estimate a month or so before we went out to bid was 36.3. So about 7% or so under budget, $2.5 million under budget. I think it's a success story, and I think it's largely driven by the work that Mike Parent, our chief estimator, did for this project. So we feel like we've got a very good handle on the nature of the work for Polson, as it was very similar to Fairfield, and we feel very comfortable estimating this project and comfortable that we're going to get to the right number.
With that, I'll talk about safety now on the job. So safety at Gilbane is our number one core value. It's our number one priority. On the left-hand side of the screen there, you'll see some of the ways that we implement safety. And then on the right-hand side, you can see an example of what some of those items look like. When we talk about safety, we're not just talking about the safety of our workers, but more importantly, especially in this case, in an occupied building, we're talking about the safety of the faculty, the staff, and the students. And getting them home safely every night. One of the ways we look to implement those safety measures to be able to protect the students, the faculty, and the staff, getting them home safe every night, is to create a well thought out site logistics plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about the site logistics plans in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Mike. So as everyone can see here on the screen, we'll be utilizing the main drive to the school, which is shown there by the golden dash line there for the night work. And then we'll have our contractors be parking along that drive in those spaces there. The rear access in the back of the building, there is a double door that we'll be utilizing as well. to minimize the traffic going through the main entrance there. And this will keep us close to our proposed material laydown area in the rear there, which will be surrounded entirely by fencing and lockable by gates. So each night that will be locked up and safe away from the students. Again, a big aspect of this project is maintaining the safety and coordinating between the school staff and our construction work that will be happening during the night work, and coordinating that with after school activities and making sure we're communicating where we're working and minimizing the access between students and contractors as well. So at the end of each night, I'll also be making sure and ensuring that each classroom and area that we go into is turned over to the school in a tidied up area and in a safe manner. I'll be coordinating with the AHJs, building officials, fire marshals, ensuring that the rooms being turned over to the students for their continued learning the following morning is a safe and compliant area for them to be in. Now moving into the summer work logistics, again, we'll still be utilizing that main drive there. The change here is we'll be having fencing surrounding the entire building, closing it off to the public, and delegating between the two that, construction within the fence line with proper signage, two main gates that will be locked each day. And then the highlighted section along that main drive, that will be open to the public. And our contractors will be parking within the fence line. This will help ensure that the fields around the building that maintains access to the public as well. And the pedestrian walk paths as shown on the top there with the white dashed line, those will be open and accessible. And at the bottom, there's a blue highlighted with a white dashed line as well. That'll have access to those fields. As you can see too, in the back, there will be a crane proposed location there. When that does mobilize in that area, we will be adding temp fencing to close it off to the public to maintain that safety, to ensure that the public is separate from our construction activities. And again, throughout this whole duration, the fields and parking will be open to the public and stay open to the public.
Thank you, Steve. Just wanted to note on site logistics and phasing plans, they're a lot like BL's design. There's various stages, right? Starts as schematic, design development, construction documents. They get more detailed as they go. Our site logistics and phasing plans very similar to this. What Steve and Mike just went through is, our initial pass at this based on the information we have. As more drawings are issued, we'll continue to refine those and do so in a collaborative manner with the school, so that we're making sure that our plans meet their needs most of all. Now I just want to talk about some project constraints.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So one of the challenges that I wanted to bring up was our team here, our full team, had the opportunity to go down, revisit the school with Peter, and take a look at the existing conditions. So I just want to preface that a little bit. What you see here is essentially a layout of your current ceiling conditions. That's what you see on the drawing in front of you. And on the left-hand side, those photos give a real visual of what that above ceiling looks like, right? So if you look at that photo on the top left-hand side there, you're going to see a little orange beam in the background. And then right below that, that kind of white piece of plastic, that's your ceiling grid, right? So from your beam to your ceiling grid at this point, there's about 12 inches. So when you think about that from a constructability perspective, it's a little tight in getting MEP systems in place. One of the items that we included in our proposal was a 3D scan. We feel that this is probably the best approach to identify the existing conditions that you have out there in the school right now. So what that means is we're going to come in during the summertime. We're going to pop all the ceiling pads. We're going to scan all your existing MEP systems. We're going to take that scan and go work with BL hand in hand to come up with a system that works with the conditions that are currently out there in the school today.
Fire protection. So existing building doesn't have it. The feasibility study that was issued with the RFP mentioned that it may be required, and it's up to the local AHJ or authority having jurisdiction. This is a pretty significant piece of scope that's sort of hanging out there, and also a cost driver as well. So that's something that if we were awarded the job, we'd want to connect with the AHJ as soon as possible to find out if it is in the scope or if it's not in the scope.
Another challenge that we see, and it's a challenge on any project nowadays, is the electrical switchgear. And the big thing is you're talking about lead times with the switchgear, right? And on this project, the lead time of the switchgear directly affects your startup of your AHU. So one of the things that we thought of a possible solution to bring in the startup of the AHUs on the schedule is to locate the switchgear in your boiler room opposed to your electrical room. You have a lot more room in your boiler room. We could build a 2-hour rated wall around your switchgear and be able to start those units up just a little bit quicker, which ultimately helps the schedule and warranty periods. Another challenge we saw is there was a note in the feasibility study that there might be a need for a new electrical service. If there was a need for a new electrical service, that would likely come up your main drive into the school itself. If we had to do that, we'd work with your team, we'd come up with a solution that works for you and for us, and be able to get that installed in a safe and adequate manner.
Thanks, Mike. And another project constraint we see is hazardous materials. There was not a hazardous materials report issued with the RFQ or RFP. As Mike mentioned, we did go back a week or so ago and walk back through the building. And, information we gleaned was that there is likely an ACM or asbestos material coating or paint on that existing drywall ceiling in the auditorium, as well as we know the floor tiles in that space are asbestos containing as well. So understanding what the hazardous materials are on this job is critical for us to continue to refine our approach to the job, be it site logistics and phasing. Before we talk about alternative approaches to the job, I just want to say that the pricing we submitted was based on the RFP. It was based on the schedule that we were issued, the macro schedule. We've priced it, based on that, the work occurring nights, weekends, school breaks, summer breaks. We're comfortable with the schedule, and we've carried the appropriate cost to execute the job in that manner. But we did want to talk about some opportunities that we see to potentially save time on the schedule and ultimately cost of the project. And one way, we think that the primary way to do that would be to condense possibly some of the school operation. So what I mean by that is if the school is able to, say, vacate a wing or part of a wing, it would allow us to perform more work quicker. If we're working in larger areas, we can attack that work and execute it much quicker than we can if we're plodding along at night. And we think this also, the cost saver here is that we'd be able to do a lot of that work potentially during the day. There's a lot of construction work out to bid right now in the state of Connecticut. That's a lot of new construction work. The market is still hot in terms of bidding. I'll be honest, a renovation job that is nights, weekends, and school breaks and summer breaks is probably not the most attractive project to the subcontractors in the bidding community. We think one way to increase bid participation, which is what really drives the budget or drives adherence to the budget, would be to do some of this work during the day. We think it'll increase bid participation and pick up time on the schedule. It's just a thought we're throwing out there. We understand it may have already been considered, but part of our job is to always look for ways to do the job quicker and less expensive. So next steps, if we were fortunate enough to be awarded the job, we would immediately hold a kickoff meeting with school officials, administrators, and the stakeholders from that side. Colliers, the AHJ or authorities having jurisdiction, which is town fire marshal, town building official, and BL, just to level set expectations and to make sure that we're all on the same page with current stage of the design and the project itself, so that we can, as I mentioned before, we continue to refine our schedule and our site logistics and phasing plans. From there, it'd be a kickoff meeting with our estimating team. Our understanding is the design development documents are close to being issued, if not already issued. So making sure that we're getting our estimating team into those documents and turned around as quick or quicker than the macro schedule showed. We think it's important to get those numbers back to you all so we can all make educated decisions about how best to proceed forward with the job. We mentioned our VDC team doing a laser scan. That's something we would line them up to do this summer, well ahead of the work and while the design is still in process, so that all the information gleaned from that 3D scan can get incorporated into BL's design, so we can eliminate change orders during the job and potential delays. And then last is a meeting with building official and fire marshal One to talk through with them turnover conditions. Anytime you're doing night work in an occupied building that gets occupied by kids during the day, we want to make sure that they're on board with how we see the space being essentially turned over each night. And to the students in the school in the morning, we know what safe looks like. We've done this a lot, but we always want to make sure that the AHJs are involved in are on the same page with us, or we're on the same page with them. But primarily the meeting with the AHJ would be to go through the fire protection, the code analysis, and whether or not that is in fact required.
Okay, that was your 15 minutes. We'll start with the we'll start with the Q&A, and then I'll give you a minute to wrap at the end.
Okay.
I guess go through the different phases. I guess in general, who is the primary contact for Peter or Bill, or even the school principals during the project?
So during the pre-construction phase, that'll be me. I span the entire project from date of award and pre-construction all the way through closeout. But as we transition to the construction phase, Mike is the project manager. So he would be the point of contact. And Steve is also there full-time on site, mostly at nights, but also available whenever. So to answer your question, Mike is the day-to-day contact and the point person during the construction phase.
Okay. Get into pre-construction. I think I know you touched upon it during your presentation, but how do you manage the bidding process? And with, like you mentioned, with all the jobs going out, how do you manage the bidding process and making sure that you've got coverage on all your bid packages?
Yep. Yeah, good question. So the estimate is only as good as the bid day results. So the bid day results, from our perspective, and our estimators, if they were here, would probably disagree. But we feel it's driven by maximizing bidder participation. At the Neck River School, we got an average of 5 bids per bid package, over 100, or exactly 130, which 5 bids per package is really unheard of. We accomplished that by, as soon as we're awarded, is identifying when this job is going to go out to bid and reaching out to all the subcontractors that we've worked with in the past to make sure that they know this project is coming out to bid around X date, and to make sure that they've carved out time on their bid schedule for this job. And then from there, it's important that we get close to hitting that date in terms of when the job goes out to bid to the subcontractors. It's not something we do just when we're awarded. We follow up, on this job, we would follow up probably every couple of weeks with the bidders, just to, again, reinforce to them this job's still coming out. It's not one that's going to waffle and may or may not go. We want to make sure it's on their schedule. And then as we get about I would say a month and a half out from going out to bid, we're working the phones with the bidders, with the subcontractors, I would say once or twice a week, just to make sure that, again, that they're keeping us on their schedule. And it will also give us feedback if we have 3 or 4 mechanical contractors that are telling us 3 months before we go out to bid that they're going to bid the job, and then a month before tell us they're out, they're not going to bid, then we need to analyze the situation and maybe chart a different course, whether it would be to bid it in a different manner, to bid it maybe a couple of weeks later to give some of those bidders more time to make sure they can bid. That's our approach. It's not highly scientific. It's just constant outreach to the bidders so that they keep us in this job on their schedule.
Okay. What is your view of the challenges and opportunities of this project? I know you touched upon the limited above ceiling, but are there any other challenges or opportunities for this project?
Good question. So challenges that we didn't mention, we think that summer of 25 is critical because during that time is when we're going to start to open up the roof at the 26 different locations where we have rooftop units or direct DOAS units, basically, HVAC fans up on the roof. Got 26 locations. We don't want to open up those roofs at night while school is in session the next day. Just too many potential issues there. So the day after the students leave is when we're going to start putting in the additional support steel underneath the roof deck for all these units, cut the roof open, set the curbs, have all these the 26 rooftop units delivered and set in place with a crane. then flash the roof back in. To do that work in a really what is, 9 or 10 weeks over the summer, I may have just described it in a minute. It sounds easy, but at 26 locations, that's a lot of work. And if it leaks in one location, that's one too many. So it's not something that we can just sort of, hope goes well. That period in 2025 summer we feel is critical to make sure that we're not setting units, after the kids come back after summer break, we're not setting units while people are in the school. That's a given, but we don't want to have to do that work over weekends. It just increases the cost. So that summer of 25 is key. Mike touched on the switch gear, which is, everybody's got an electrical panel in their basement or in their house. You can, if you think about it for this building, that panel that's in your house is 100 times the size, and it's multiple pieces of equipment, the size of closets. And currently the plan, as we understand it, is to put the new switch gear, the new panels in where the existing ones are now, which is a challenge because that means we have to wait till the kids are out of school, de-energize, have Eversource de-energize the building, remove all that existing switch gear, put the new in. That takes about 2 weeks to get that all set, bolted up and ready for inspection. From there, Eversource takes a couple weeks to do their part. So between doing that work in the summer of 26, if we were able, that's what we would have to do, that work in the summer of 26 if we stayed down that same course. If we were able to put the new switchgear in an alternate location, like inside the boiler room in a new enclosed area, we could do that work, at night or during the day, down just in that boiler room, getting that switchgear installed. Because the switchgear, and I probably should have started with this, based on the current lead times, that switchgear wouldn't show up until August or September of 25. So too late for us to do over the summer of 25. So we'll install 26 rooftop units for the HVAC system in the summer of 25, and they're going to sit there and wait for the new electrical service to start up in the summer of 26. So if we were able to put the switchgear in an alternate location, we can get those rooftop units up and running by the end of 2025. So we think there's definitely an advantage there to doing that. And also that's going to save cost on the cost of the switchgear. If the switchgear gets delivered in August of 25 and doesn't get installed and energized until the summer of 26, we're going to buy an additional warranty to extend that 12-month period, right? And we also need to store that switchgear in a climate controlled space, which is running, $5,000-6,000 a month. So there's $60,000, $70,000 right there that putting the gear in an alternate location would save you.
Okay. Seeing that this is a phased construction, at least that's how it's on the schedule right now, unless we can change that. The team's experience with the phase construction and closing out phases and not going back into previous phases to do punch list or doing contract work.
Yeah, so our approach is this isn't a scientific approach either. It's just a tough-minded one that as we're finishing a phase, we're punch listing ourselves as we go so that when the architect comes out, there's very little that they're picking up that we need to go back and address. The same goes for commissioning, starting up the new HVAC systems and making sure that they're working properly. That's hard to do after a building is occupied, as is punch list. So it's just being tough-minded with our own team, but also with the trade contractors that, hey, just because Mr. Drywall Contractor, you're going to be here for another year and a half doesn't mean you have another year and a half to do punch list in this first area. It creates a real challenge and a strain on our team when we're trying to look ahead and execute the phase that we're in and we're building, and also at the same time having to go back in previous phases. That'll only snowball, and as we get to the third or fourth or fifth phase, we cannot be doing punch list in the previous 3 or 4 phases. It doesn't allow us to look ahead and identify challenges and react proactively to them.
Okay. What is the most concerning construction logistics issues?
Construction logistics, I think getting the duct down and the new services down the corridor ceiling is a big challenge. Getting those rooftop units, as I mentioned, up on the roof in summer of 25. But honestly, overall, the biggest challenge construction wise that we see, and this is a challenging project. It's, I'm not going to lie and sit here and tell you, oh, it's easy. We'll this is no problem. We'll see you at the ribbon cutting. There's challenges to this job. We're excited about the opportunity to do it. We've done jobs as challenging this or more, but it's the safety of the students and staff. That their health and safety is paramount, and we don't take shortcuts on that. It's constant communication between our team and the school and everybody involved to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and that students' health and safety and the staff health and safety is never compromised. It's never put in jeopardy. We're never rolling the dice on that with one work activity. It's constant planning and constant communication on our part. So I think that is honestly the biggest challenge. We've done it successfully on every other job, but I think we've done it successfully because we approach it fresh every project. We don't sit back and say, well, nobody got hurt on a previous job, so we'll just keep doing it the same way we used to. We don't really approach it that way. That's a lagging indicator. We're trying to be proactive in how we approach and plan the work so that we ensure the same results that we've had on past jobs.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to committee members or the town if they have any questions.
Thank you. I don't. I was impressed with your already ideas and thoughts about the project. So thank you for your time and your presentation. At this point, I don't have any questions.
Okay, I'm going to steal yours from the last one. Are you currently working in the town? And what stage is that if you are, what stage is that project? And have you worked in the town in the past?
So we are working in town now. We're the construction manager at risk for the Neck River Elementary, just across the wetland there over on Munger Town. Stage of that project is we are starting foundations in 3 days, which is exciting time to get the job going. We've stripped an awful lot of topsoil and subsoil over there. We've got some large mounds of dirt. It looks like there's a lot going on, but in reality, until the foundation starts, really we aren't in it yet. So that's where that project stands now. We are locked into a May 31st of 2025 substantial completion of that project, so that can be occupied for the academic year of 25-26. That's the only project that we are involved in with the town, and the only one that we've done.
Is this the team that's working on that?
No, ma'am. I'm the only one that's involved in that project and in this one. So that the on-site team is separate on each job.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, we'll turn it over to you, Nick, for a final wrap up.
Okay, thank you. Just wait for Deshant to get the final slide up. There we go. So why Gilbane? Companies don't build buildings, people do. So the Gilbane logo is up there, but it's the folks in this room, primarily Mike and Steve, and our project engineer, David Wadman, that are going to build this building. They all have experience working together. They have experience in occupied campuses and in occupied schools like Polson. We've recently bid, as I mentioned, 3 schools in Fairfield with very similar scope. So we've got the experience to execute the construction. We've got the experience in recent market pulse for this type of work based on the recent bidding in Fairfield. So the cost certainty aspect is there. And we are a client-driven company that at the end of the day, if you're not satisfied with us, that's what we're ultimately held to. That's what I'm judged by at Gilbane, is whether or not the folks on this call want to work with Gilbane after this project. If we're on time, on budget, but the answer to that question is no, or the answer to that question is, well, yeah, maybe, then I failed. And so making sure that we're exceeding your expectations from the day we're hired all the way through the warranty period of this project is what's most important to us.
Okay, thank you all. It was a pleasure. Nothing else from the committee? Or
No, thank you. I thought it was a very nice presentation. Once again, I was very impressed with the details that you've already put in for the ideas to try to move the project along. Have you worked with BL Company before?
We are now in Fairfield, yes. The construction phase of that job has started. So yeah, that's our experience. Nishant, do you know if we've worked on other projects with BL? I have not.
We've done, Bill, we've done a few projects with BL.
And you're doing 3 schools right now. And just for my clarification, you're doing 3 schools with them right now, the same sort of thing, but you're doing 3 schools, not 1. And the budget was 36 million and the bids came in at 33.
Correct.
And BL Company is the engineer who's doing the design.
Correct. Yep.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. I'm good. I appreciate your time. And thank you.
Great. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
I guess it's up to Gene and Galen. I would sort of like to put Jesse on the spot and Mark, if the committee thinks that's appropriate, to ask them, if they've worked with these 2 companies and what their perspective is of both of them. Gene, are you okay with me asking them that?
Yes, yeah, I think that's really only the questions that I have is what are they like working with and how's it going so far?
Jesse, you want me to go?
Sure.
Okay, I've worked with both of them in the past 5 years, past 6 years with Colliers. With Gilbane, I've done probably a handful of schools. 2 of them were completed in Fairfield, were occupied, phased occupied. Little bit different scope as far as additions, but still putting air conditioning in those schools. We are about to kick off in Fairfield with the 3 schools. Basically same scope as this one, the VRFs and DOAS units to supply fresh air. So they're good to work with. Downs, I have not done a school with. I've done a municipal center, and that was a challenging town to say the least. But it was opened on time and on schedule, or on budget, I should say. But it presented its own challenges. But that was it was a different scope. It was a new building, knocked down a new building from it was a municipal center versus a school.
Was it a communication issue? Was it
No,
it was all just the building.
It was a tough project because of the town politics.
Okay.
But
So it wasn't related to them directly.
No. The communication between Downs and the owner and Downs and the design team was there. They do a good job that way also.
What about in terms of the security? I know obviously it wasn't a school. Definitely Downs seemed more detailed about their security protocols with the subcontractors. Did you find the same? And Gilbane did talk about it, but not to the same detail.
As far as the background checks and the town of Fairfield that I've been doing, that I've done most of my work with Gilbane, the town does their own background checks.
Okay.
So that's how the background checks are, because it is an occupied school.
But also with the security when they're on, and like I from Downs, it sounded like they actually have a security person that checks that.
The superintendent for Gilbane will be does the security, does make sure that the egress is there for the students coming out of the building. They do their security through the superintendent.
So my only concern with Gilbane, and Billy, this goes back to other stuff you and I have done. There's suggestions on how to move it along a little faster. I understand. Are you comfortable with that? I mean, I don't see how we could allow a wing to be opened up during the school year, by moving the population around in there. But is
Well-
that something you'd consider, or it just seems to me that's a little bit too,
Aggressive?
yeah,
So we've actually had conversations with the superintendent and the principal, of course, about these topics. We have not made any decisions or recommendations because we don't have the plan or the design. So phasing them and closing a wing is definitely not out of the conversation or
Okay.
is a definite part of our ideas and planning. I believe we all believe that if we can reduce the schedule,
yeah,
it helps many ways: cost, construction, timing, and impact to the school. If it's only a 2-year impact, it's definitely better than a 3 or 4-year impact. So we all agree that learning and teaching is our focus, and how can we do that with the least impact? So there's no plan yet, but phasing and closing part of the school is not out of the question, but it hasn't been agreed upon. And obviously, we need to do a lot more before we do that. And the security and safety of the kids, I think, are number one for sure. And they can't learn and read and write if we're banging and making noise or
right.
making smells. We know that construction is difficult. We live it all the time. Peter and I just experienced a problem that we caused. We didn't realize how bad something would smell, and it put everyone over the edge, rightfully so. We didn't anticipate it. So I think what makes me excited is that they had those ideas. They talked about the switch gear that we haven't talked about. They already have a staging and scheduling plan. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I'm really excited that we're going with a construction manager, because I'm thinking, how are we going to get this done? They do it for a living. You know what I mean? And they had the idea. So it's a good idea, just like they all are, but nothing's etched in stone, and we haven't agreed on anything.
Do you think it's Gilbane seems to have more experience with schools? Am I reading that right? Than Downs?
I was definitely impressed with Downs' presentation and the amount of schools that they have worked in. And, they definitely seem very, very qualified. And I thought that their presentation was great. I think that Gilbane, to me, was more of a construction manager, as in the details. Not that Dow's didn't have those details, but they didn't present that. Gilbane came up with actual specific ideas and suggestions. And, I know the school pretty well, and the staging area that they proposed and the area where they can come in and out of the building, that is the least impact in my mind, to get in and out of the school with the least amount of problems, and a great staging area, because it won't mess up with the traffic. It won't mess up anything. There's a great flat spot back there. It's in the back of the building. So I was just impressed with their ideas. Whether they'll work out or not, and logistically, we have to decide that, but they had them. So,
well, I think for me, just doing these with you, Billy, for years, and I have no experience in terms of the actual details of the projects, but Downs, I agree with their presentation. I agree with your assessment of their presentation. It was very polished. It was very professional. It was very clear for me to understand, but also very canned. And I liked better, for me personally, that with Gilbane, they talked about the building, the actual project, and as you said, they were very detailed in suggestions. So I felt it was more personalized. So that was just my thought. Not that I have expertise in this area, but that would be my feedback on those two.
Bill, can I add one thing?
absolutely.
So Gilbane had reached out to me to get a good eyes on the project. And so we spent 2 hours last Friday with that exact team that presented. I was thoroughly impressed on how deep they wanted to get into the building just to take a look at it. We were on the roof. we were in the basement, we were in the ceiling, and we were in every single classroom. They were very, very serious about getting it right. I mean, if I can add to that, that was reflected, I think, in their construction planning in their presentation today.
Thank you, Peter. Jesse, you haven't got a chance to speak. I'd like to hear from Jesse. He's working on a project, not one school, 3 schools doing the exact same thing. So Jesse, give me a little more information about where are you on the phase, how long you've been working with them on that specific project, and then you can give me overall perspective.
So we've been working with Gilbane on those 3 Fairfield schools for about a year now. That was through the design process. And right now it's into construction. It's just gone through bidding. Bids were awarded and construction is going to start probably this week. I'm thoroughly impressed with Gilbane on that. They've been so focused on constructability and phasing throughout everything that you can't help but be impressed about how thorough they are on that piece of it. In terms of their presentation here, I liked how specific they were about thinking about ideas that were specific to Polson. I think that's big rather than more generic ideas. But yeah, I'm very, very impressed with Gilbane on Fairfield and working with them. They've been good to work with. Like any CM, the cost estimating is a little on the conservative side because every CM wants to come in, everything's under budget and everything, but that's part of the process. So, I have nothing bad to say about them at this point. And before I joined BL, I also worked with Gilbane on another school project, and same thing. I thought they were one of the better CMs I worked with on a school project. So I know the people change, but I've had really good experience with them. Downs, I have not worked with on a school project. I've only kind of been involved on the periphery of working with them on a low-income multifamily residential type projects, which are a totally different project type, and I don't think you can really compare them. They were definitely less successful. From my perspective as the design team, I have a little bit different things to look at than you may as the owner. But ultimately, what's good for us is good for the town also. We work for you. We're here for your best interests and not for anyone else's. And the one thing that I've had experience with, not with Downs, but when they started talking about their clash detection, I was thinking about another school project I worked on a few years ago. Again, not with Downs, but another CM who did the clash detection like that. So they sent us like 100-page document with 1,000 comments on it about clashes. Most of them were irrelevant. They just wasted our time, which could have been focused better on real issues versus, this duct conflicts with that one. Well, it doesn't. It's insulation that conflicts. The insulation presses down. It's not hard. It's flexible. So it's like, they had 300 conflicts like that were not even conflicts. So again, I'm not saying Downs is going to do that, but when I heard their clash detection on their BIM modeling, I was cringing a little bit from my side. I'm like, they're going to pull our focus away from what we should be working on to make the project better and do our job. And they're just going to start like saying, oh, this doesn't work, when in fact, yes, it does. Yeah.
All right. Just quick, just because I just cognizant of my time and I know Galen. Galen, do you have anything to add? Any concerns?
No concerns. I think they both look really good. I agree with the fact that Don's presentation was slicker. I thought Gilbane delved into kind of the contingencies, looking at the electrical switches, the asbestos, the fire systems. I mentioned it specifically. The fact that scheduling's tight, looking ahead was good. So I just thought that they were, had a more in-depth knowledge or the devil's in the details kind of thing.
Good. So Billy, at this point, do you want us to vote on this? Do you want a little more time? I feel like the feedback's here. It's up to you how you want to proceed. If you need us to move this, Galen, are you comfortable?
Well, yes, I'm comfortable. We haven't heard about costs yet. I mean,
Yeah, but I think minus that.
Yes, minus that. So, Mark, why don't you go over the costs?
Yep.
Can we just, sorry, interjecting myself, Felicia here, because I'm the one who really sort of pushed from the beginning for a CM firm. I just, understanding that costs are very important. I just want to remind everybody, you know, in this process, costs are not the only consideration, and there is language in the RFP that says for the betterment of the town, best interest of the town, not necessarily the lowest qualifying bidder. This is, in my days as formerly an OPM and now a construction manager, one of the most complicated projects I have come across, especially since it's an occupied school. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about who is best qualified to take this on, who's really thinking about the best interests of the town, how to coordinate everything. It's not just who's the best cost, it's who's really the best fit for the project. So I just kind of wanted to preface everybody's thinking before you jump into the real, the bones of the numbers.
Thank you, Felicia. Yep, it's a tough call. Board of Finance is a little hard for me to take that hat off, but I appreciate your thoughts, and certainly have always put the town first. Thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
Yep. There we go. So we asked them for general conditions worksheet, and both of them have submitted it, obviously. Put it into a side-by-side comparison. Hang on as Excel catches up with me. Bottom line, you know, they have the personnel that we asked them to carry. And all that. Gilbane's about $300,000 less than Downs at that point. Field office expenses and that. So based on apples to apples comparison, Gilbane is about $400,000 less than Downs is, based on the worksheet that we provided them. Both of them provided the general conditions per month, and Gilbane is about $30,000, $28,000 a month cheaper on their general conditions. The factor that I don't have on this worksheet, and I should, one of the drivers will be the fee. Downs's fee on the construction is 1.95 versus Gilbane's at 2.15. So based on a $15,000 or $15 million project, we are talking, you know, 0.2%. You're talking, I'm not doing the math right. There's a difference when you calculate the fee that is proposed by both of them.
Can you go over the 1.95 again and the 2 point, what was it?
Yes, the 2.15. That is their fee on the cost of the work. So at the end of the bid period, they'll put a GMP together. They'll get the trade costs all together, and then they'll put their general conditions and their insurance and all that, and then each of the firms will have proposed a fee. Downs is at 1.95 and Gilbane is at 2.15. So that would be their fee on the construction phase of the project. So they would multiply the 2.15. That would be their fee for the construction phase.
So it's 0.2%. The Gilbane fee is 0.2% higher than the,
Correct.
so if the bill's $100, and it's not $100, if the monthly bill's $100, we'll be paying 0.2% higher on that $100. Correct?
Correct.
And versus the total, their administrative fee is 1.22 versus the other one's 1.63. So I don't have the math well enough to do. It's a $15 million project. What's 0.2% of 15 million?
300,000.
Oh, thank you. So it's about the same. So their fee's about the same. They're just charging it a little differently.
Correct.
And if you calculate it out, it might, Gilbane's fee might be a little less.
Correct.
So thank you for explaining that to me. That's what I thought it was. I wanted to make sure the committee, maybe they already knew that, but I wasn't 100% clear on that. So Galen, does that answer your question about the numbers?
Yes.
So we go back to Felicia, I think, is making the point that it's really the who we think is in the best interest. The fees are very close. I'd have to say that Gilbane's, a little bit cheaper potentially. But to me, they're the same. Do you agree, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Felicia, any other input?
No, I think that covers it.
All right. So Billy, what do you need?
So I think we need the committee to make the building committee to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to award this to one of the companies. If we haven't answered any of your questions, we could always get those questions answers and come back to you. But if you have everything you need, I would like you to make a recommendation. The Board of Selectmen will award based on your recommendation.
Galen, what do you think?
I move that we recommend Gilbane
Okay,
for the project.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Also,
I appreciate
you're
your
welcome.
time. Is there anything else that I missed? Well, I don't think we need to executive session. I don't think we approved the bills. Is there any public, Felicia? I mean, excuse me, Raquel. She says no public. All right. Any other remarks from the committee members? Sorry, Jean, you're on mute. You good? She's good. Galen, you good?
I'm good.
Anybody else have anything to offer? Well, thank you. Appreciate your time. We'll keep you posted on how we make out.
Okay.
Great.
I know
I'm going to pose 2 questions and answer 2 questions.
someone jumped in. Okay. Everybody's good. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Maybe a little longer than we'd hoped, but I think we really accomplished a lot. I'm very excited about bringing the construction manager on board, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone at the next meeting.
Thank you, Bill, Mark, Jesse, Raquel, Peter, and Felicia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.